The US is now facing a different kind of challenge: how to punish countries like Russia and Iran without weakening the global power of US dollar. Well, a new Russia sanction bill has triggered intense debate in Washington. The proposed legislation would make sanction on Russia mandatory instead of optional and could also impose tariff on countries that continues to buy Russian oil and gas. And that's a sad news for India though. There are also discussions that the scope of the bill could later expand to include Iran and Hezbollah. Well, lawmakers from both the major political parties believe that legislation has strong chance of becoming a law. But here's where the story becomes fascinating. For decades, one of America's greatest strengths has been the dominance of US dollar. Because most international trade it is conducted in dollars. Washington has been able to use the financial sanction as one of the most powerful foreign policy tools. Countries that are sanctioned often lose easy access to the global financial system, and that gives the US a lot of economic influence here. However, some officials inside the Trump administration they are now worried that overusing sanction could eventually encourage more countries to reduce their dependence on the US dollar. If nations begin to trade more in China's yuan or maybe other currencies, America's financial influence could gradually weaken. And that is why the administration has started reviewing how sanctions are used while also trying to preserve the dollar's position as the world's leading reserve country. Well, International Monetary Fund data in the meantime shows that around 57% of the world's foreign exchange reserves are held in the US dollar, making it by far the most dominant global currency. But wait, policymakers do understand that maintaining that position that requires careful balancing. While sanctions remain an important diplomatic tool, yet using them too aggressively could create long-term unintended consequences. And that brings us to the biggest lesson from today's episode, ladies and gentlemen. When we hear about wars, we often think that they are only about soldiers, missiles, or borders. But the truth is that modern conflicts reach much further. They affect jobs, businesses, supply chain, investment, immigration policies, currencies, and the life of ordinary families around the globe. The conflict that begins in West Asia, it can influence the future of an H-1B worker in California. It can affect an Indian entrepreneur running a grocery store in New Jersey. It can change investment decisions in Mumbai. It can influence shipping costs, inflation, even the strength of world's most powerful currency.